is JustIN with This JustIN. As your host, Justin Core, this is a show where we take a deeper dive into the stories most important to you with the people who bring you those stories. Back again today as a correspondent, it's Morgan Romero, News at 10 co-anchor, investigative reporter, court reporter, News at 6 co-anchor, etc., etc., etc. Morgan, thank you for coming back on a totally different day, but still, as I did, dressing in the exact same outfit.
Yes, of course. It's the only jumpsuit I have.
That's okay. I'm going to give away a free idea that could be worth $1 million. Like a suit, like a, dress suit, but it's like a jumpsuit. It only looks like a suit. So you just have a zip in the back or even front, maybe hide it.
Brilliant.
Just throw the whole thing in the wash at the end of the day.
Brilliant.
I shouldn't have given it away. Man.
You should patent that immediately. Now you've put it out into the ether and people are going to steal that idea, Justin.
You should patent it. Yeah. As always. Well, unfortunately, as a guy in news, I don't have the advantage of being able to wear whatever I want. So many unfair advantages for women on TV. Really, it's a joke.
So honestly,
it's a joke.
There was one. Do you remember that time where that male anchor? I know we're getting sidetracked, but he wore the same
Today Show?
Yes, he wore the same suit every single day in response to his female colleagues getting heckled by the whatever they were wearing, and it's like nobody noticed. Nobody noticed.
Nobody said anything. The exact same suit for a year.
Was it a year?
It was for a year.
Oh my gosh.
And he was like, how come nobody commented on that? It's the patriarchy, so.
Facts.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Morgan, we're going to talk about a case that you've been covering for years as we head to trial. But first, you just got back from a big trip. Yeah. Where'd you go?
Oh my goodness. Okay, so we started in Italy, Tuscany and Cinque Terre with my husband's parents. And then my brother lives in the south of France, so we did Provence and the French Riviera with my mom and brother. And then from there it was like, that was a lot of family time, but it was beautiful.
It was beautiful. It was great.
It was great. And then we did London for a long time, and then we did southern Portugal, the Algarve, where we learned to surf, which was a big staple throughout our travels. And then we went from there to Austria, where we went to an incredible thing called Krampus.
Krampus?
Look it up. Krampus. It's terrifying. It's like the anti-Santa.
Anti-Santa.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Demonic.
Yes.
And they're all dressed in these incredible costumes. It was super authentic because our friends are Austrian and they live there.
Wow.
So we stayed with them in the Alps, close to it's like technically the Dolomites on the Austrian side, and went to this. My husband and our friends, getting like tossed around and whatever. Yeah, you get beat up.
By Krampus?
Mm-hmm. By the Krampus. Look it up.
So we actually aired some video during
Christmas.
Yeah. And it was like, I've seen pictures or whatever, people kind of dressed up. But man, in Austria, they do it up.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's big time. And really scary. So after that, anyway, then we went to, I studied abroad in college in Sevilla for a long time, Sevilla, southern Spain. So it has a huge piece of my heart. So I went there. I went to the Canary Islands. I went to Madeira. That's where we spent New Year's, was Madeira. Really, really cool.
Wow.
They have one of the biggest fireworks shows in the world. It's made the Guinness Book of World Records for New Year's. So that was super cool. And then I went to Central America, to El Salvador, and to Panama, to the middle of nowhere, Panama, which was our favorite place.
Really?
Yeah, I'm not telling anybody where it is.
Well, I know where Panama is.
But like the place.
Oh, okay. All right. No. Gotcha.
It's my secret. And then Brazil for almost a month, which was wild. And then Argentina, including Patagonia, for almost a month, and then ended in Puerto Rico.
And then maybe the best stop, right back here.
Right back here. Yes. Well, you know what? I've said this on social media. It is a beautiful thing to travel the world and to experience different cultures and places. And I'm really passionate about travel. Like we talked about my hobbies in the last episode. I love travel. And I thought to myself, gosh, this is the most surprising thing, is that I was so excited to come home because I love it here so much. And it is so beautiful, and our access to the outdoors and to public lands and all of the things that we're afforded in Idaho it's different than a lot of the rest of the world.
Well, Morgan, let's take a look at your social media post here. On an Instagram post, you said you're bringing back the lessons, memories, and wonder. I saw stuff like this on your trip, and I heard about all the places you were going. I'm like, nah, we're never getting her back. She is gone. She's gone to the winds. She's a citizen of the world now. She's never coming back here. And yet you are back. That says a lot about the allure of this place. But also, what sort of lessons are you bringing back?
I learned so much about myself on this journey, like not working for 6.5 months.
Not bad.
Not bad. A little mini retirement. You know, I think this job defines so much of our identity, and it takes up so much of our time and energy and effort outside of this building. Like we are in the community all the time, and we have to behave in certain ways and present ourselves in certain ways, and it's just become a fabric of my being, and I'm sure yours too, as an anchor here. And so to be able to step away from that and discover who I am outside of news was a really beautiful thing. I did a lot of work on myself. I really focused on yoga and breath work and meditation.
Nice.
Did a lot of journaling and some like holistic work. I started going to therapy, to be totally honest. Everyone should go to therapy. And I, tried to remain active, but not put the pressure on myself to like look a certain way and feel a certain way. And I personally have struggled with that a lot throughout my life. And so to be able to like remove myself, and I think like I've said this a couple times to friends, and is like, what a privilege to be bored. There were days where I was bored, like how often, and it sounds privileged, but really like you're in Patagonia, I'm in this one tiny like mountain town for 2 weeks. And like, how many days in a row do I really have the energy to go hiking? Like, that's not real life. Like, sometimes you just want to sit and watch Netflix. And, like, of course, got to explore beautiful places like this and go backpacking and stuff. But, at the end of the day, like, I'm not on vacation necessarily. I'm traveling, but also living my life. And so I had to kind of remove myself from that guilt of, like, not every day do you need to be, like, going out and exploring and doing all these new things. Although I was most of the time.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's a skill some people especially our kids right now have to learn, is how to be bored and what to do when they are bored, because the phone dominates so much of our life, and you can get stimulation literally all the time. So to, as you said, have that privilege to be bored where you don't necessarily have to go to work or do whatever. But then to figure out what to do when you're bored. To
be beholden to nobody and nothing. Like, I could dictate what I wanted to do for the first and last time in my life. Like, I want to start a family, and so this is it. And I had always had this itch, and I was like, I got to scratch this. And so it was like, to be beholden to nothing and nobody the whole time, and to have such utter freedom, and to learn how to really be present is something that I want to take, with me here and in perpetuity, especially as a mom. Like, it is so valuable to not fill your schedule. And I fill my schedule up to the brim. My calendar is always booked, and I can't stretch myself so thin anymore. I need to be present and take care of myself. And that's what I really learned.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. All right, you've convinced me.
Bye, Justin.
You hold down the show. You can also do the morning show, right? Just stay overnight, do the morning show. I'll see you in half a year.
I'm a gremlin in the mornings.
You will not get me back. All right. Thank you so much, Morgan. Great talk there. Next on this Just In, some families are looking for justice, while a quadruple murder suspect says he's just looking to be vindicated. That's next on this Just In. We are still a couple months away now from the trial of Bryan Kohberger, accused of killing University of Idaho students Madison Mogen, Kaylee Gonsalves, Xana Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin. Morgan, you've been following this case since the beginning. I can't believe it was 2022, coming up on 3 years now. One of the last hearings, though, before the actual trial gets underway, happened last week, and big news coming out of that. Judge Stephen Hippler issued an order related to sensitive information, specifically related to a Dateline episode. Am I right about that? What exactly happened?
Yeah, so we weren't privy to exactly what was going on during the hearing itself last week. There was an open hearing, and at the end of that open hearing, it was his pretrial conference. At the end, Judge Hippler told the prosecution and the defense, I'm issuing orders, administrative orders, requiring the retention of records as it relates to the non-dissemination order in this case and potential violations. That's the gag order. There's been a gag order over this case from anyone involved in it since the get-go. And all of us journalists were left like wondering what's going on. And he had mentioned they talked about this in a closed hearing before the open hearing. So court was supposed to start at 9. It was like not until 9:30 or so that we actually were let in, because they had a closed hearing with the defense and prosecution and the judge. So that was discussed, and then more information came out. These orders that I have printed out, one for the defense, one for the prosecution, that the judge issued. Here we go. The judge issued right after that hearing, and specifically references Dateline, which he hadn't done in court. Yeah, it says in both of them, based on sensitive information not previously publicly circulated that was reported during a recent Dateline TV program related to this case and the defendant, Bryan Kohberger, it appears likely someone violated this court's non-dissemination order. And in the prosecution, in the order for them, it says it appears likely that someone currently or formerly associated with law enforcement or the prosecution team. So it seems that he's looking into like somebody associated with law enforcement or prosecution to determine who was the leak to Dateline or leaks to Dateline.
Gotcha. Is that something that would help then the prosecution? Is this part of a strategy, or is it just like, hey, Keith Morrison seems like a decent guy. I'm going to tell him some facts he didn't know before?
I mean, gosh, that's such a good question. I can't imagine how it would help the prosecution.
Yeah.
Honestly, I mean, like and again, this is just information. We can't call it evidence.
Right.
Until it's presented, is it evidence? But it's pretty damning information if you are the prosecution. But I imagine the prosecution wouldn't want all of this out there before the trial actually starts, which is why so many things have been sealed. Obviously, we do know much of the evidence that they're going to present. Sure. I don't know. I don't know if there was a tactic or a strategy behind this.
Is there any particular piece of information or set of facts that you saw, that we saw in that Dateline that maybe especially got the hackles up of Judge Hippler here?
Yeah, I mean, it was a really good episode with a lot of new information.
And I heard about it beforehand. They were talking about a lot of new information. I'm like,
yeah.
Wait a second.
How? Where?
How?
Yeah.
How?
And they cited multiple sources close to the investigation. A few things. One, the biggest maybe, was this surveillance video that was captured from a nearby house, which right by 1122 King Road, where those murders happened, shows a white sedan going back and forth, like passing by that area multiple times, leaving, returning, in the hours prior to when those murders occurred. And law enforcement has said that they believe Bryan Kohberger was driving a white sedan. And so that's a piece of evidence or information that we haven't seen. In addition to some of Bryan Kohberger's Google searches, he was looking up Ted Bundy. After the murders occurred, the suspect was looking up K-bar knives and sheaths. We know that a K-bar knife sheath was left at the crime scene with touch DNA from somebody associated with Bryan Kohberger. So, according to the prosecution, right?
Right.
And so that was important, as well as some of the other photos that he had saved in social media searching of women that he had done allegedly at the University of Idaho and Washington State University. There were several things that were discussed. Some interactions he had allegedly with students at parties, and some of the vibes that he gave off there.
Okay. And it seems like, at least according to that order there, that Judge Hippler has an idea that the information might have come from, as you said, law enforcement or the prosecution team. Is he looking to find out exactly who it was, and then what happens?
Yeah, he is. So these orders are demanding that they keep all records of any communication, and not just them, but that they give this order to anybody they've ever worked with on this case.
Whoa.
And demand that they also keep any communication records. And so he says specifically, this court finds it's imperative to attempt to see that the source of such leak is identified and held to account, and that doing so is the best deterrent to future violations.
Okay. So is all of this going to then limit media access for the actual trial, for jury selection? Is this sort of putting a bad taste in the mouth of Judge Hippler, that it's like, man, I gave you an inch, you took a couple miles, and
it's so hard. He didn't say anything about limiting media access in the upcoming hearings or in the trial itself, but parts of voir dire of jury selection are private, and you obviously can't see the jurors. So there's many things that are already in place to protect the confidentiality of jurors, but certainly this Dateline coming out is going to impact jury selection. This is already one of the most high-profile cases in the entire world. Everyone's eyes are on it. They moved it to Ada County so they would have a better shot of finding a fair and impartial jury, because we're just such a larger population base. It's going to be really difficult now that this is out there to find and to seat a fair and impartial jury who doesn't know about all the information.
Why do you think people are so interested in this? Because you're right. If you watch the Today Show after Wake Up Idaho, Today Show does as much, sometimes more coverage of this Kohberger case than even we do. What do you think really resonates with people that they want to hear about it, that they want to know more?
Well, I mean, first and foremost, it's just like one of the most horrific crimes that's ever happened in our state. And people can't make sense of why something like this would occur, right?
Right.
And one thing that's never been discussed, we've known about a lot of information out there, the DNA, the cell phone records, those sorts of things, but we haven't ever learned of a motive, a possible motive. And so that's something that I think has a lot of people really interested. I mean, it's 4 beautiful kids whose lives were cut short in such a brutal way. And according to prosecutors, you know, they don't know exactly like why, or they haven't said exactly why or who was specifically targeted. Maybe we'll find that out. But I think that's keeping a lot of people interested, and just the fascination with true crime in our country.
Yeah.
You know, there's documentaries on every streaming platform about true crime, and we've done stories here before about the fascination behind it. And, you know, for whatever reason, people have a lot of interest in true crime in general.
Is Kohberger's defense still expected to argue that there could have been, as they say, alternate perpetrators? Essentially, they're saying somebody else did this.
Yeah, they are saying alternate perpetrators have come up. And I think this has happened in the course of their investigation and their gathering evidence. They have to submit information by the end of this week saying this is why we believe they're alternate perpetrators. Here is our evidence. And this is why we believe it's admissible in court. Judge Hippler said last week to the defense, you guys have said that you think they're alternate perpetrators, but I don't know if any of what you're saying of these allegations are even admissible. Like, objectively, they might be inadmissible in court. So they've got to prove that. And then the state responds, and then there's going to be a hearing on that on June 18th, which is over a month before jury selection.
Gotcha. Will Kohberger's supposed mild autism be brought up?
Yeah, it's been brought up a lot. Defense had experts come in and talk and interview and all those sorts of things and diagnose him with autism spectrum disorder, among others. And now the prosecution is bringing in an expert, and they have to submit evidence and expert rebuttal on their specialist who can speak to his autism as well. It's not. The defense wanted it to play a part in their case and in his sentencing and those sorts of things, which they could definitely bring it up during the mitigating and aggravating factors should Kohberger be convicted and found guilty in this case.
Right.
But it will be something that is discussed.
Man, I can't imagine, as we said, going on almost 3 years now. Any idea how the families of the victims are doing right now?
Such a good question. I haven't personally spoken to them since I've returned. We've always been in good contact with the Gonsalves family, and they've been really vocal, as many know, in this case, in responding to each individual hearing or big filing that's come out. I haven't personally spoken to the Chapin family. I know Maggie O'Mara has. Our sister stations in the Northwest and I are putting together a special ahead of trial with different elements, and we are going to be focusing, one of our sister stations is going to be focusing on the families. And I definitely need to check in with them ahead of that trial.
Yeah, and I'm sure probably privacy right now is good, but I just can't imagine. Yeah.
No.
Can't imagine.
And because it's like, you want closure, but what is closure when you've experienced something like this?
Yeah, and it's never really fully you're never going to have fully that closure on this. This is going to be with you your entire life as a parent. When does jury selection, then the actual trial, start?
So jury selection, they're going to be sending out questionnaires to folks in Ada County, and then they're going to be summoned to the courthouse to fill those out. And then jury selection begins July 30th. And that's going to go through the voir dire process, which is where you question each individual juror. They can be dismissed for cause or for bias, whatever reason, hardship. So like if you're a single dad and you can't afford to be on the jury. And then from there, it gets whittled down. The judge has said that he wants 55 potential jurors, and then they move to this phase called preemptory strikes. So, and that's where each side, the defense and the prosecution, can question people and dismiss them without cause. If you just don't like somebody's answer, right? You could just say it, whereas previously it had to be with cause. So you get to that 55, and then last week, likely in light of some of the information that came out in that Dateline episode, Judge Hippler added 2 more alternate jurors. So there will be a jury of 12, and then there were originally going to be 6 alternates, but now he's added 2 more, so there will be 8. And you don't know if you're going to be an alternate until the very end, until deliberation phase, which is important,
Sure.
So it gets to that point, and then the jury trial actually starts August 11th with opening statements.
And then how long is all this, you think, going to take?
That's such a good question. Between 3 and 4 months. They've said November.
Whoa.
They've said November, and then there's the sentencing phase if he's convicted, and that's a little mini jury trial in and of itself. And then there's
3 and 4 months.
Yeah, because
Lori Vallow Daybell, I mean, that was
3 months.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But wow.
And it's such a complicated case. Like Lori Vallow Daybell had there was so much involved in that case specifically with cell phone records. And the same thing will happen in this case, cell phone records, FBI, surveillance video, all these sorts of things. But hers there were, many different scenarios over different time periods. And hers lasted 3 months. So I can only imagine that this is going to be the same, if not more.
Morgan, can't think of anybody better to be on this. Really appreciate it. Been a very heavy show, but we're going to end on a lighter note. Eagle, Idaho trivia with Eagle, Idaho's own Morgan Romero. That's coming up next on This Just In. Welcome back to This Just In with Eagle, Idaho's own Morgan Romero. Morgan, we're going to do some hometown trivia. Brenda Rodriguez, by the way, was on here. Absolutely nailed Rupert, Idaho.
Oh, no.
6 for 6.
Oh, my goodness.
She had, without even multiple choice, the exact year it was founded.
That
is a high bar, Morgan.
That is an extremely high bar. I want to set the groundwork now that might not happen.
Well, we shall see. Okay, are you ready-ish? When did Eagle become a city? When was it founded?
A city.
Or can you just start saying something and then read my face to let you know?
Okay. So it was unincorporated Ada County for a long time until it became a city in the 70s, 80s? Close? Lower. 50s.
No.
60s. 60s? I got that on the first guess.
No. 70s you had it.
70s.
Yeah.
I was close.
But like what 70s?
Mid?
Are you calling me mid?
Mid, you're mid.
71. Oh, half credit.
That's
okay.
mid.
Some mid questions.
I did 0.
That's the toughest one, I think. All right. In the 1800s, when Eagle was originally settled, it was called what slightly longer name?
Eagleton.
Eagle?
Parks and Rec.
That would be funny.
Wait,
and
I wish.
Very appropriate if you've seen Parks and Rec. Eagle
Island?
Yes.
Eagle Island.
Nailed it.
No help at all from Justin.
I'll give you half credit. Okay, what 1980 film starring Clint Eastwood was filmed partially in Eagle, Idaho, including at Orville Jackson's?
Oh my gosh, I'm sweating. Oh my goodness. I love Clint Eastwood. I know he has major ties to Idaho, but I don't know. Bronco Billy?
Nailed it.
Thank
wow,
you.
How did you think of that?
I just got a voice in my head.
Half credit again. Okay. What Eagle High grad went on to play tight end in the NFL before scoring the tying touchdown in Boise State's epic Fiesta Bowl win over Oklahoma?
Ian Johnson?
No.
Wait, he was a tight end.
No.
No.
Yeah.
He was a tight end.
Yeah.
Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Derek? Schumann.
Nailed it.
Derek. He went to Eagle.
Yeah, he's a firefighter now for Boise
Boise
Fire.
I'm the worst. I'm so sorry.
Okay. We're going to see if you can get this one.
Okay.
I really hope you can. What current main anchor at KTVB graduated from Eagle High, then Colorado, before landing back in the area?
What is Morgan Romero for 100?
Are you asking?
Do I get
Morgan? It's not.
Do I
it's
get
not
6
Jeopardy.
points for that?
You get a singular point. Okay. What This Just In host and Wake Up Idaho anchor also graduated from Eagle High and is currently sitting across from you?
Oh, okay.
Can
I phone
Morgan.
a friend?
Yes, you can.
Justin?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I'm using my phone for timing right
Justin,
now.
is it Justin Core?
It is Justin Core. Nailed it. Okay. So, with a little help, you got
So sorry.
total 4 of 6.
So embarrassing.
That's not bad.
You're very generous.
That's not bad at all. That is passing.
I answered.
I mean, not for a core class, but pretty good.
Not as a journalist, not as an investigative reporter. You think I know better?
It's fine. You know all the really important stuff.
It's true.
So, Morgan, thank you so much for joining us again a second time on this second totally different day.
Totally different day. Thank you for having me.
If you have comments or questions, you can send them to 208-321-5614 with the hashtag JustIN. It's the same number as the 208. I answer this as well. Send in your comments and questions, and you don't have to be as mean to me as you are to Bryan. Hashtag JustIN. We might talk about it on the show. Or don't be mean at all to Morgan.
No.
What a sweetheart. Come on. See you next time on KTVB Plus.